because they made a Pokemon that was so easily accessible to be played by anyone of any skill,
Hmm.
um, they lost their attunement to like map awareness
Yeah.
or positioning.
Hi guys, I'm super excited to talk with today's guest. He's an Australian player, laid back daddy streamer. He's got a partner on Twitch. Every Australian player knows and loves today's guest. He's built an amazing and incredible culture on Pokemon Unite through his Discord and his Twitch streams. His content was the first of Pokemon Unite that I have watched, and I've been an avid follower since the early days of this game. Hello and welcome, Nuggy.
Hey, thanks for having me. And it's great to see a face behind the attack weight. So, very thrilled to be here and get to just chat about Pokemon. Why not? Pokemon Unite, something that we've both played for a period of time now.
Yep. I love it, man. I'm so keen. All right. Firstly, on the screen here, I've got this pre-prepared tier list of the current meta. Now, this is the state I had it in before.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any adjustments that need to be made here?
Yeah, look, we were talking about before. I do believe Dragapult should be where it's at the moment, just because there are other Pokemon that does things better. He's trailing behind. Mimikyu, I was discussing about how maybe instead of C tier, it should be a B tier, just because if you have someone in the right hands playing that Pokemon,
Yeah.
it has the ability to just, catch Pokemon that let's say Inteleon, one of the most I guess hated attackers right now because it's just so strong. Mimikyu is very good at picking that off and then continuing on to its next target. It's got a wonderful Unite move that is almost like Slowbros. But it just needs to be put in the right hands. What I'm actually thinking about I don't know if Mewtwo Y these days is S tier.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Just because with all the nerfs and stuff, but
Maybe.
I think apart from
yeah, true, because it was a double whammy, right? Like we got the Blissey and the Mewtwo Y nerfs. That's yes. I can see a case for that. I can.
Yeah, with the knowing about the nerfs, how it can no longer crit. Its Mega Evolve time is halved, so it's not as powerful as it was once before. People are not doing Future Sight as much on that Pokemon. They're doing more Psystrike from what I see, and Teleport. Not even Recover anymore because it's just been heavily nerfed. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, since the nerf, I don't think I've seen one that has been as dominant as it once was.
I agree. I mean, on that point, currently, because you've hit mastered, in this new season, you've played a bit of Unite. Who do you think is the strongest pick right now?
Oh man, okay. I would say Blaziken for sure. Definitely great upgrades that was needed. It is not impossible to beat, but its survivability is definitely there. Mew definitely interesting choice that they decided to kind of like revert Mew back to when it was it's still relatively strong. But at the moment, I think Mew is currently the winner of the patch that has recently come past, as well as Blaziken. I think those two are very, very strong right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm definitely more in the camp of Mew, just because the skill cap is it has got such a high skill ceiling. It is honestly, it's so good. All right. I want to talk a little bit more about the current meta. We've recently had a patch. We saw nerfs to Mewtwo Y, who was a problem, Blissey, who was a problem, Lapras, who was a problem, and we've had some exciting buffs to, as you mentioned, Blaziken and also Absol. In your opinion, do you think that the current state of this meta is balanced?
I almost have to say yes, considering the amount of mental torture that I believe 90% of the players faced in the previous months leading up to this moment. We know that there are still very, very strong Pokemon like Inteleon out there, Lapras and whatnot, even though Lapras got a bit of a nerf. But yeah, Mew, it's definitely more enjoyable to play, that's for sure. Not having to see Mewtwo Y Blissey combinations or Mewtwo Y Blissey Lapras as the deadly trio or the new deadly trio, it's been a breath of fresh air. Regardless of how strong Mew is, as you said, the skill cap for Mew, like I can kind of say that's that's fair. You know, it's kind of what you wanted something like Mewtwo to be like. It's got to be difficult to play, but rewarding for those who learn it and master it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think right now it can always use some improvements. I think Inteleon's liquidation and damage, even I think maybe even Snipe Shot, just have a tad nerf of damage there. Mew, we'll see how that happens because I actually haven't come across a lot of Mews, which in a way I guess is not surprising considering how we talked about the skill cap here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good. I've been enjoying this season a lot more than the previous one, that's for sure.
I couldn't agree more. I think the game, I'm very grateful. You know, as you said, we've been terrorized. So I'm gonna lead in more of Mewtwo Y here, right? So obviously Mewtwo Y terrorized our meta for months. It got unpatched, it got untouched. It had pick rates the highest we've ever seen in a character in this game. Nuggy, do you think people who excessively played Mewtwo Y for this period of time will have lost their skill and struggle a little bit more in the current meta?
100% yes. I was thinking of ways to maybe sugarcoat it, but no, I like being upfront that because they made a Pokemon that was so easily accessible to be played by anyone of any skill, they lost their attunement to like map awareness or positioning or even sharing important farm for your allies. And now that Pokemon has been nerfed, they are still doing and you know, it's doing the same things. They're taking like so much farm. They're going in head in, thinking that they're unstoppable, but they're not. They are just their skill level. It's just made them worse players because everything that you built up pre Mewtwo Y has now been like washed away, and they need to kind of like retrain their brains or whatnot to be able to get back at what they once were. So I think they have definitely picked up a lot of bad habits thanks to this Pokemon, unfortunately.
Okay. I love that. I can already see the thumbnail in my head. I'm going to call it the Nuggy effect, right? Where I imagine you've got like an X-axis, it's got time, and a Y-axis, you have skill. And obviously as time goes on, right? Yeah, the Nuggy effect, right? 100%. I don't think there's any way you can sugarcoat this. If you excessively play Mewtwo Y, you are going to struggle a little bit more. Now, I've just got a little preempt before I want to move on. Do you think there is a particular Pokemon that you should pick that will help you improve the most at the game? Let's assume you don't care about your win percent. If you want to improve a Pokemon Unite, what is one Pokemon you think could help you do that?
I've been saying this for ages. I think if you want to improve at the game, do not pick attackers. Go defender, supporter, and just do either top or bottom lane. Don't do the central jungle or anything, because I think if you want to learn the game, and you got to understand what your role is, you got to understand what other people in your team are hopefully doing correct. I don't think anyone who starts new should be taking that central farm, because it is one of the most important roles at the start of the game, because it leads into everything, you know, whether you're going to help your top lane or bottom lane. I think those who start definitely play a defender or support, probably support maybe more, because they're more on the back line. You're like, oh, they need a top up or a shield, whatever, give them a heal. It just allows you to watch from afar, understand what's going on, and then you can apply that for your next few games and get better at it. I mean, I started off as a Snorlax when I started the game, and I didn't touch the jungle for months. I was either top lane or bottom lane. I was not ready to commit myself or take that responsibility to be able to lead my team at the start, because I didn't know enough. And I think that's what people need to do when they start off.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like that. If you had to pick one attacker though, who do you think is probably the most beginner friendly, easiest attacker to play in the game?
You know what? It's probably Pikachu. I don't play Pikachu much. I'm thinking about it. Like, you don't want the hyper carriers like Greninja or Cinderace, because that's actually like a level above. But you want consistency from start to finish. As an overall attacker, I think Pikachu is good. It's got if you're starting off, it's a Volt Tackle and Electro Ball. Those are the easiest, lock on target attacks. and then you can move on to the other skill set with Thunder and Thunderbolt or whatnot. That's fine. But yeah, I think Pikachu is the easiest attacker, and it's still strong to this day, guys. So anyone that is trying it out for the first time, or those who are veterans right now, we've seen plenty of Pikachu mains in the higher ranks. So yeah.
There you go. That's another thumbnail and video idea. Thank you, Nuggy. You're a very useful person to converse with. I love this. Okay, I want to move this discussion forward a little bit to skill cap. I'll share a Pokemon that I think has the highest skill ceiling. I think it's Scyther, and I think it's closely followed by Zoroark. I've noticed in my data conversations when I talk about Pokemon Unite, generally these Pokemon have a lower win rate despite being, in my opinion, incredibly strong picks, and they evidently do really good at Worlds. Why do you think that these Pokemon with such high skill ceilings have such low win rates? And do you think it's worth investing in these Pokemon considering it's unlikely they're going to be nerfed considering they have a low win rate?
I think if you love that Pokemon, Scyther, for example, and you want to learn it, I would say go ahead and learn it. The reason why some of these Pokemon are such a high skill cap is because it takes a lot of time to learn how they work, and especially the timing of when they go into attack. Now, again, the reason why a lot of people have a low win rate with it is because they don't have enough time to process and think about what they're going to do to use that Pokemon to attack. Because Scyther, like, extremely high burst, very fun to play, but is kind of like an in and out character and can't be the one leading the charge. It's the one, it's an assassin. So a lot of people fail in that aspect when they are not targeting the ones they want to target. I've seen Scythers go after defenders for some reason and are going after other attackers to get them out of the equation.
Guilty. I'm guilty.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We've all done it. We still do it to this day. It's just kind of that tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Another contributing factor, as you said, is people who are professional players do so well in Worlds, and then you have people like us who are inspired by that. We want to pick up that Pokemon because it looks so impressive at Worlds, and then we play it and we're a potato and we stuff up and we don't do well. So it's just one of those types of Pokemon that you gotta take the time and effort to really master its craft before you start seeing those win rates go up. And this is from the views of just regular peeps, right? We're not talented, as they say. We just enjoy the game as is.
Who, in your opinion, who do you think is the Pokemon with the highest skill cap in the game?
Highest skill cap is surprisingly enough, I'm gonna say more, not so much Pokemon, but maybe the role is probably Speedster. Yeah, like I was thinking of Dodrio. I'm thinking of Pokemon that I struggle with. So, Dodrio. I think Scyther definitely fun, but mastering Zoroark for sure. Especially with either its Night Slash or Feint attacks. Those are crucial timing to be able to execute the most amount of damage and get out of there unharmed. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with those two. Dodrio for me and Zoroark. That is probably hard. I know Mew is a hard one as well because of the rotation, but because your range, it's a little bit more lenient. You have time to figure things out from afar. But yeah, the ones that require up in your face, do damage, and then get out is the ones that to me are the hardest ones.
Totally agree. Now, but before I go to my question or I wrap things up, is there a particular build that you think is, it's kind of like the unspoken build that does really well? So I'm going to throw an example. I really like Blastoise with Spin Spout, right? And, Blastoise, for example, has got a 49 win rate, but if you look at that particular build, it does a little better. Is there a Pokemon that you have, in mind that you can share? And I know there's one, Dragonite, that you're a big fan of Dragonite.
In terms of the build,
so the specific build that just seems to do really, really well.
Okay, the build, I would say, let's go Machamp. Okay. I've been relearning Machamp again. I've been thoroughly enjoying either attack weight, Aeos Cookie, and weakness policy, or It's weakness policy in specific with scope lens and muscle band or something like that. Like just the fact that a lot of players out there always like to attack. It just builds up, before you know it, you can get that 12% extra damage from weakness policy. You've got a bit of health, and you can kind of turn it around on them when you have your skills resets. I think it's a nice surprise to the enemy, and more often than not, I'm able to get the one up on them just because I have that little bit extra attack and health from the weakness policy. So builds like that, revolving weakness policy, I use it on Dragonite sometimes with outrage. So long as I keep hitting, I'll be okay, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think builds with that is kind of my cheeky go-to from time to time.
Yeah. Now, because I always remember you, Nuggy, as someone who I was always feared of the Dragonite. The Dragonite would out-secure, it would come down and terrorize me in lane. And I think Dragonite's a weird one to have a conversation with. I still think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I do rate Hyper Beam and Dragon Dance still. And I also rate Dragon Dance and Outrage. So Dragon Dance is obviously the better skill. But a fun fact about Dragonite is that he has the lowest win rate build in the entire game. It's Extreme Speed and Hyper Beam. It has 26% win
rate. Yes, I can see why. Yes.
Yeah. So anyone who's watching at home ever watches Nuggy play Dragonite, that is not the build to experiment with. I repeat, not the build to experiment with.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go on to a bit of a final note here. Nuggy, if you don't mind me asking, what's one piece of advice that you have for people who are aspirational about creating content on Twitch or YouTube in Pokemon Unite or just gaming in general?
Oh, okay. Let's take the gaming in general. I would say just be consistent. Just like in a way, you got to have a passion or a goal for what you're doing. Just start with yourself and be consistent, put up a schedule so people know. You may not attract anyone at the start, but it's more of a mindset thing for yourself that you're rocking up to, in a way, work on time. And I think a lot of people can see if you really, really enjoy what you do, and they get drawn to you as a personality a lot of the times, not just the game. If you're good at the game, bonus, all that stuff. But yeah, just be consistent. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just love what you do and talk to people about it. And yeah, it's really hard work, guys. It's not just a flick of a switch.
Yeah. I totally agree. Honestly, if I share a little bit of insight on myself, that is the one thing that I did not realize how much time it takes. And especially since starting Twitch, I take my hat off to anybody who does Twitch streaming on a regular basis. I do not know where people find the time to do this stuff, to come up with ideas, to set their stream up, to learn all the things. Like, I've just started with Twitch, and obviously I've had a look at your stuff, Nuggy, and I'm like, how the heck does he do, like there's this sound that pops up, or he's got this particular thing, or like there's so many things that you've integrated in your stream. And I just think people don't realize how much time and effort goes into not only just creating it, but also learning how to do that particular skill.
Honestly, I am amazed myself sometimes what I'm able to create, because I don't, like, if I went back, I don't even know how I got there. But I think that just is based on when you're building yourselves up. It's honestly a fun part, guys. Like, when you're creating for the first time, it's never going to be perfect the first round, and every time you finish streaming, you can rewatch a VOD. It's sometimes cringy, but it's the best way to grow, because you're watching yourself, and you get to say, oh, let me add a little piece of that or whatnot, talking to the camera, all that stuff. It's really enjoyable if you just go with the process with it, and then just make it a fun thing for a start.
Yeah, 100. I love it, man. I love it. I really appreciate, Nuggy, your time. I know you're a very busy person, and this is quite a lot of time out of your schedule, and I do appreciate that.